welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Here's Mr. Michael Harris.
Oh, good evening, everybody. I can't actually hear a thing, by the way.
Can you?
Probably just as well, I think.
Yeah, I've literally just arrived in the studio, so I do not have my normal diatribe. So, other than to say good evening and welcome to the Speedway Tavern, everybody.
Well, you did have something else, but we won't go there. So
No, please don't go there.
No, not with people who ate the dinner. So.
Yes. It's been an interesting couple of hours.
Right.
Lots to talk about tonight.
Oh, yes, indeed.
They've just announced the lineup for the next year's Speedway Grand Prix.
They have indeed, yeah.
You noticed that? Ty Woffington's
back in it. Jason Doyle back in it as well, of course. 3
Brits again next year.
Good stuff.
So, yeah, looking good. Leicester.
Back in the top flight again. That's
big surprise.
I'd heard whispers a few weeks ago that
Right.
they were. I think to be fair to Leicester, their position now is much more stable and stronger than it was when they last went into the top flight. I think in the last few years they've become a especially well-run club, and I think they'll be in a strong position. I think what will help them as well is the fact that they're going to be running matches on Saturday anyway, because of course they're still staying in the NDL.
Yeah.
Of course, their league matches will be Thursday in the top flights, but still have that regular Saturday fix as well for the Leicester
It's good news for the Premiership, bad news for the Championship.
Well, it's a local derby that's been lost to Birmingham.
Very bad news for Birmingham, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out who our nearest.
It would be Oxford, wouldn't
Oxford,
it?
yeah. Thank God Oxford came into it.
I can't see Oxford. I mean, I know there's been some talk about Oxford going up. I really can't see that in just their second year back.
No, I think that would be...
I get the distinct impression that there might be a few... They might be trying to twist Glasgow's arm into going up as well, which I suppose now with Edinburgh sadly looking like they're on the way out, there may be a possibility that Glasgow decide to take the plunge, because they could certainly sustain it with their, obviously they're very...
How many would that leave the Championship with?
8.
8.
8 in the top flights, 8 in the Championship, so it would be fair, even split.
Well, it's been an even split.
Yeah.
I don't know about fair. Yeah. They're going to have to look at the rider situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's,
the big thing from my perspective, of course, is would be Nick Morris, because obviously riding at number 1 for Wolves and riding at number 5 for Wolves and riding at number 1 for Leicester. He'll obviously have a choice to make. My gut feeling is that Nick Morris probably won't be at Wolves next year. I think he'll be leading Leicester's charge back in the top flight. That's just a hunch, but
it would be a good sign for Birmingham to make in the Championship. I mean, that's the other thing. There's going to be a few riders made available in the Championship side of things anyway. So that might... who knows?
Yep,
I mean, we keep getting promised a really good lineup for next year, and I've no doubt that's what they will be trying to do.
Well, the early signs and the early reports are encouraging, aren't they?
They are very.
From a Birmingham perspective, but obviously just right to say, of course, the proof will be when we have our first show next year and we're looking at the teams and whether we're tipping Birmingham to win the Championship. So,
well, I always tip Birmingham to win the Championship, as you know, and it was nice to see the nice comments that Justin Sedgman made about Birmingham the other day.
Yeah, that was very encouraging. I think that's something that will sort of have done the rounds with a lot of the other riders as well, hence why we're hearing stories of a lot of riders have shown an interest in
riding for Birmingham.
Moving to Birmingham next year, and that bodes well. I think if you're in a position where you can trust the promotion, that's always a very, very positive thing to have for any speedway club in this day and age.
At this point, we normally ask Chris, who's had his haircut, I believe.
I have, and I've had my ears lowered. So there you go.
You've had your ears lowered?
Yeah. To make it look like I've had my haircut, yeah.
It looks like you've got some recapped, doesn't it?
Firstly, if somebody can give me a sound check. Oh, no need. Yeah, thank you very much, Elliot and Bradley.
Well, we normally ask you how can people participate today?
Okay, so search on Facebook for UK Speedway Tavern. You'll find us on all the good Speedway sites and groups. Also, we are now live on YouTube. every Tuesday, same time.
Get it out
So
there.
I'm multitasking here. So,
No such thing.
and also you'll find us on all the major podcast platforms from Wednesday around about lunchtime. So that includes Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Acast, Google, and many more. Back to you, Michael.
And Alexa.
Yes, and Alexa,
Alexa.
yeah. You're a smart speaker.
Yeah. So, yeah, and also some of you are already out there on the shout box, but we'd love to get your comments, and you guys run the show with your comments. So, I mean, let's get into some of those comments, shall we? Elliot Hunt says, literally the same lineup except the new GP Challenge winner Nielsen. Need more new riders to mix it up. Glad to see 3 Brits in the lineup as well. Yes, it is. I mean, the same as you were, 14 of the 16, I believe.
Well, it would be. I suppose the one thing he does rule out is any possibility of the Russian riders coming back into the field. I mean, to be fair, if they'd have put him in for next year, then it sort of says, well, why did you take him out last year? Because nothing's changed, of course, with the situation, has it? So
No, nothing's been said about that.
No, it seems to be very hush-hush. There's a speculation that, about Emil Seyfried possibly announcing his retirement if the situation doesn't change and he's not allowed to return to racing in Poland.
Yeah, I read that, yeah. Which is sad.
It would be sad, yeah, because he's a top-class rider, and who's both him and Artem Legurta, particularly Artem Legurta, of course, having worked so hard to win that World Championship, have found themselves out of the series through no fault of their own, really.
No. Pete Clark wants to know, this is to you, Matt, how poor were Wolves last night?
It was a disappointing performance. Started off really well with that 5-1 in the first heat, but I have to say Sheffield really were solid all the way through. Lewis Kerr, it's the best I've seen him race at Wolves. I don't think anybody in the stadium, I don't even think Lewis Kerr would have expected Lewis Kerr to have had winning his first 3 races. Adam Ellis rode very well on a track that he doesn't
normally like, does he?
Do that well at. And they were solid. They didn't have any weak links all the way through. I mean, normally you'd have a situation with a team where the number 1 scores 7 and the number 5 scores 7. You think, well, that's a comfortable home win, but their middle order more than made up for that. But that 5-1 in the final hit from Sam Masters and Nick Morris, that really has kept it very much alive, because the tie's certainly far from over. We've done well at Sheffield in the matches we've been there this season.
Is Sam Masters feeling his injury, do you think, because he didn't have the best of nights?
No, he didn't have the best of nights. I think probably in a couple of the races towards the end, I think he was maybe trying a little bit too hard and just getting out of shape and making a few mistakes. But as I say, Wolves have done well. Wolves have had a 46-44 win, a 46-44 defeat, and a 12-point defeat at Sheffield. The 12-point defeat at Sheffield, Steve Worrell was missing for that one. So, a 5-1 in the first hit for Wolves, back in the tie, level.
Right,
so
exactly.
it's certainly far from over.
Yeah, I think it is far from over. I thought I was going to get my draw all the way through, but I was watching it on the updates. Look, I'm going to get my draw here. But I didn't. That's a shame.
You're running out of time to get that draw.
It's been 3 seasons and I still haven't got a draw. Justin Sedgman rode well as well, didn't he?
He did. Probably not a track, again, a bit like Adam Ellis, not a track that he normally does that well on. But as I say, no weak links in the Sheffield team. They were solid all the way through. They didn't have that many last places. And I think just a few too many of the Wolves rides weren't quite on him on the night. So it is advantage Sheffield, but I don't think there's no way you could rule Wolves out of the meeting just yet.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that they will be hoping, I suppose, that Sheffield feel as if they've got one foot in the door. But if Sheffield are anything like a professional outfit, which I think they are, they won't less. It's going to be a good one to watch on the box for sure.
It is, yeah. It's a shame really that it wasn't shown last night, to be honest, because the other tie
was already over.
With all due respect to Ipswich, the other tie was already over. Obviously, I'm sure we'll be getting on to Bellevue and their new signing in due course.
In due course, yeah. And you can tell us what you think about this. It reminds me of a certain Paul Greg Hancock situation. But yeah,
I mean, to be fair, going by the rules, Bellevue haven't actually broken the rules.
No,
they've taken advantage of the fact that they've got a rider on a long-term injury in Max Frick, and they've been able to bring in a replacement.
Well, you would want your team to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's not breaking the rules, you want them to use the rules.
I don't think it's a situation like when Paul brought Greg Hancock in, or dare I say it, when we brought Ty Woofington back in 2016. Although Woofington, in fairness, did have an affiliation with the club anyway, because he'd been with us when we won the league in 2009. Greg Hancock's ridden 3 matches for Paul, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, and won a challenge.
Two of them were in the final. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
might have ridden a few more matches than that, to be fair, but you know.
Okay, so we'll carry on through. Why in the GP to say the top 6 when it's the top 15 one newcomer? Well, I think they say the top 6 straight through, and then they have a pick of 4, don't they?
Yeah.
And then it's
invariably the 4 that have just missed out, isn't it? So
I mean, I don't think you can argue with Jason Doyle and Ty Woffington coming back in.
Certainly
really.
Ty Woffington, 3 times world champion, and Jason Doyle as well, on his day still capable of being a dangerous rider. I don't think. I mean, a lot of people say, well, neither of them are going to win the world championship again. You don't know. I mean, they
said that about Greg Hancock.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Greg Hancock went 14 years without winning a world championship, and everybody's saying, well, he's not going to win it again, and then suddenly he won 3 out of 5 in the following 5 years. So you never rule them out. I don't think you would put them down as a favourite to win it, but certainly you'd never say never. Certainly in the case of Ty Woofington, I think, because I think Ty's still got the desire to come back and win.
He certainly seems. It seems to me. Hopefully, he said, because he said he's going to be knuckling under a little bit next year.
Yeah, I think a big thing for Ty really is going to be the fact that he's going to be able to get back to Australia this winter, because he hasn't been able to do it the last couple of years because of COVID.
The whole COVID situation.
I mean, although he is British, of course, Australia was where he grew up, and I think he's obviously more comfortable back over there, and I think it'll give him an opportunity to properly recharge his batteries, and he's making big waves about his plans for 2023 as well.
Well, you don't say things like that if you don't mean it, because it comes back to haunt you otherwise.
Yeah, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that we might see a fully fired up Ty Woofington right back in the mix. I'm not saying he's going to win the world championship, but
he's going to be more competitive.
Certainly a lot more competitive than he has been the last couple of seasons.
So Spuddy, he said he's heard rumours of a couple of names to top league teams already. Heard grumblings of a name or two for Brum too. I've heard more than a few grumblings, but we shall see. We shall see. A lot's going to depend, isn't it, on the points limit, as always.
Sounds like the points limit, certainly in the top league, in the second tier, is going to go down, doesn't it?
Well, I know that. Promoter, his name is
Lawrence Rogers.
No, the other one. Yeah, Nigel Tolley. There you go.
Sorry, Nigel.
No, Nigel's name never disappeared. Nigel Tolley has sort of intimated that it's going to be lower, but if there's going to be less teams, will it be? Will it need to be?
Possibly, yeah. Well, if it's 8 teams, then
there's more riders to go around in that division.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we shall see. I think the idea being, reading between the lines from what he said, is that nobody wants Poole to have 3 number ones riding for them next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, you look at that Poole team. That Poole team would be competitive in the top league, wouldn't it? But it's the way it goes. It's the way Poole have obviously always had a mentality of having a stronger team as possible, because they want to be successful, which is to their credit, I suppose.
It is, yeah. You got to say, if it's 8 teams each league, and that's what it ends up being, shouldn't we be rethinking promotion and relegation again?
Well, they've tried it a couple of times, haven't they? And it's sort of...
They've tried it half-heartedly a couple of times.
Well, I think the last time the relegation playoff was between Sheffield and Leicester, wasn't it? And Leicester had a disastrous season, and Sheffield had been flying that season, and Leicester won both matches convincingly. I think that sort of put people off, didn't
Well,
it? So
it shouldn't. What it should do. I've said this before. You know what you know that I have. What it should do is make them go, okay, that didn't work. How do we make it work? Instead of just giving up. You know, and we do that too often with good ideas in this sport. Oh, it didn't work. Well, yeah, it didn't work how you wanted it to. So make it work how you want it. You know, why didn't it work, and work that out. For me.
Is the idea of Birmingham getting promoted back into the top league, would that be appealing to the promotion at the moment?
I wouldn't have thought so. They're just working out this league. I mean, I think they want to do a. Yeah.
I suppose looking at it logically, it would make sense for Birmingham to be in the same league as Wolves, Leicester, Sheffield, and
there is
like
that. And there is absolutely that.
In the top, whereas obviously in the second tier, there's quite a lot of travelling now with clubs, especially now with Leicester.
But there's
making
more
the decision to move up.
The wage bill's going to be that much higher, and can
they sustain it? I think Birmingham need to be run, possibly long term. Is an idea that the British promotion are looking at is going back into the top league, but certainly not in the next 5 or 6 years.
I would support them to do that when the time is right.
Yeah,
I want to. That's why I say promotion relegation is a good idea, because that's when the time is right.
Yeah.
Invariably, and we've never won the Championship or the Premier League.
Yeah.
And since 2007, I would like to win it. Anyway, this is not a programme about Birmingham Speedway. Elliot says Wolves started off well, then slipped after the first few heats. Sheffield were very dominant in the second half, which helped them get a good lead into Thursday. Is 4 points a good lead? I suppose any lead away from
any
home is
lead,
a good
isn't
lead.
It?
Douglas was very poor.
Yeah, Douglas had a poor night.
And they were not there last night. Hope he rides better on Thursday. Need the full team on fire to pick up a good win for a qualification to the final. You're going to have to hope, I think, that Leon Flint shows his liking for the Sheffield track again, aren't you?
He does. I think the problem really that Wolves have had is that they've never had the meeting where both reserves are fired. You know, they only scored. I mean, Leon Flint had a really poor night last night, which was disappointing compared to his recent form around Mamba, albeit he hasn't ridden there for over a month. And Drew Kemp was a little bit better, scored 5 points, but again, 2 last places. That's been the Achilles heel, I think, for Wolves this season. Is that too many of the riders really that haven't really pushed enough on their average.
You can't complain too much. You've got through to the playoffs.
It was pretty much the same team last season that got to the playoffs but didn't get any further. So
rumours are that Chris Harris has already signed for Leicester next season, says Craig Smee.
Well, that'd be interesting for the Coventry legend Chris Harris at Leicester.
Leicester, yeah. And then riding for Birmingham, at least he'd just stop in red and yellow. I'm saying that. I'm not saying that he's riding for Birmingham. I don't know whether he's
Leicester's first match back in the top flight because Bomber was guesting for Wolves that night, and I think they were certainly warming up for Coventry's arrival at Beaumont Lee as well with the reception they gave Bomber that night. To be fair, it was really vociferous.
It's not the sort of track you would think Chris would do well at.
I don't know.
It's very gatey, isn't it?
By all accounts, a lot of people have said that the racing there in certainly this season has been much improved. I've not been to Leicester for quite a few years. I think it's about 5-6 years since I last went there. Obviously, plans to go there next year if they're in the top flight, which of course they are, as we say. Albeit obviously a long way away, but that would be an interesting one. I still think there's a possibility that Nick Morris. Well, I think there's a strong possibility that Nick Morris will be back at Leicester next year, which will rule him out of Wolves' plans. But I think in Stuart Dixon they have an outstanding team manager who's done a terrific job since he's been at Leicester. It's a big challenge for him, of course, because he's never managed in the top flight before. But I think he'll certainly throw himself at the challenge.
Well, we shall see. You would think Leicester's possibly going to win this year, but then again, the way Pool's all of a sudden gone bang.
It would be quite something, wouldn't it, if Pool win the league and then Leicester go up?
Yeah.
Try explaining that to a non-Speedway fan.
Quite. Elliot Hunt says, I'm watching back last night's meeting coverage from Bellevue. Can see how badly we gated in some heats at Wolves from the coverage clips.
Yeah, gating was awful last night. It's going to have to be massively improved on Thursday if Wolves are going to turn that round.
And Craig Smith says, was the track bad at Wolves last night? A few people saying it was a bad track.
It was an interesting meeting in the sense that it was close and there was a good atmosphere. The racing at Wolves in the last few weeks has been, the last meeting against Sheffield and certainly the Bellevue match on Bank Holiday Monday was a superb meeting. It wasn't quite as good in terms of racing last night, but still interesting. I don't think the track was brilliant.
It's just something to blame, isn't it?
Yeah, at the end of what they say, Paul Whitman blames his tools, don't they? But the same, it's for both tracks. So.
Simon, right, let's get this one out of the way. Simon Corbett says, Lambert, thoughts?
Well, as I've said, Bellevue haven't done anything wrong in terms of the rules. It looks what I'm intrigued about is the fact that they clearly wanted to do this last week, didn't they? We saw the post that Robert Lambert put on social media, quite scathing at the fact that he made plans to come back over to the UK. He'd even got a Bellevue race suit ready, and then they were told no. So I don't know whether something's happened in the meantime, whether somebody's maybe got somebody to scrutinise the rule book and they said, well, no, we are allowed to do it. And they've
I would imagine it will have gone to the SCB, wouldn't it? It's generally the way these things.
I think so. I know I was talking to someone last night at Monmouth who was talking to CVS about it, and he was quite philosophical about it. He says it is what it is, and it's great for British Speedway that Robert Lambert's back in because possibility that he might be at Bellevue next year,
or Kings Lynn.
I was say, well, looking at it. I mean, I was looking at the averages this last week. I mean, I think it's not. If Bellevue box clever, depending on what the points limit is, they could possibly have both Bewley and Lambert next year, which would be a really good top two.
That would be a hell of a top two, wouldn't it?
Because Bewley's average is 9.14 from his last UK season, and Lambert is 8.46, so it's not that high. So I think both of them need. I mean, Dan Bewley, I think, wants to race in the UK next year, and I think probably Robert Lambert as well. And to be fair, I think they're at that age where they really need to be.
Right.
To be honest, they need to be riding in as many meetings as possible, and it would be huge for British Speedway to have the top two British riders this year, and probably two riders that look very likely to be alongside Tom Brennan, our best two riders over the next decade. And to have them all racing in the same team would be something else.
Possibly as well. Leon Flint could be another one. He's not there yet, but he's certainly showing signs of it, hasn't he? Ryan Douglas ruled himself out of Wolves as far as I'm concerned last night. Been disappointing since his mid-season injury, says Spuddy.
I'm not in two minds about Ryan Douglas, to be honest, because I don't think he's ever really mastered Monmouth, but he's but certainly in the first half of the season he was very pivotal in quite a few of the away wins because of his record on the big tracks. At this stage, probably I'd say from my own perspective, the three definites for next year for Wolves would be Masters, Luke Becker and Leon Flint, and then the other ones you sort of work around the permutations.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the as far as people like, well, any rider really is, if you're not going to have him, who are you going to replace him with? It's got to be better.
Absolutely,
hasn't it? That's otherwise it's not worth the job.
We have got a match in taking place.
Yes, Plymouth versus Armadale.
It's currently 41-31 in favour of Plymouth.
So they're going to avoid the wooden spoon then by the looks of it.
Looks like it, yeah.
Bradley Gray says the thing is with Laguta, does he really want to be in the GP series with a full year of no Speedway, or would he rather have a season in Poland first and go in next year? I think if he was given the chance, he'd probably jump at it.
Yep.
Will he get a season in Poland next year? I mean, we just don't know, do we?
Well, like I said earlier, if they are allowed back in Poland next year, then all that tells me is that they shouldn't have been stopped from riding in there this year because nothing's changed with the situation.
Well, nothing's changed, but it might have done by then.
Possibly, yeah.
There is that, or can they ride under a different licence?
Yeah.
Craig Smith says Lambert is a like-for-like replacement, one GP replaced by another.
Absolutely. But Bellevue for me are in the box seat now, I think, in terms of winning the title. But obviously we'll.
Yeah, Spuddy says, "Well, Waffy Road race 6 league meetings for us before the playoffs, though."
Yeah,
so slightly different
very different. And I mean, a lot of people said, well, Wolves got him on a fake average. Well, they didn't, because his last season at Wolves was 2014, and he had a really poor season, and his average dropped. So it was a real average he was on.
Craig Smee makes a valid point. I think the GP wildcard picks would have been more difficult if the Russian riders were able to come back in next season.
Yeah,
and that's that. I mean, that's another thing. When all this finally, presumably and hopefully, has boiled over, how do you get them back into the GP? Do you just say, well, we'll give you a place? So the riders then go, well, hold on. Do you know what I'm saying? That's a tricky one.
It's difficult.
Or do you say you've got to go through the whole?
Well, the fairest
GP
thing would be
challenge?
to say to go through the GP challenge. I mean, Artem Laguta would perhaps rightly argue, well, I won the World Championship and I wasn't allowed to defend it. You know, I didn't lose it because somebody beat me. I lost it because I wasn't allowed to defend it. So,
he can quite rightly say he's an undefeated champion.
absolutely, yeah.
Duncan Pemberton makes a point that I've seen before. Even people seeing the GP lineup for the next season, same old, same old. About time they scrapped GP riders contesting the qualifying round to stay in. How can you be allowed to get in the next GP when you are still contesting the current one? Getting like a closed
Yeah,
shop.
I don't like it. I don't like the wild cards anyway. I just think, to me, it's sort of, you're handed a place rather than having to work to get through it. I like the original format that they did years ago when the GP first started, when you had top three from the Continental final, top three from the Intercontinental final, and then I think it was the World Under 21 champion at the time. Possibly you could have that now as the European champion that got the 6 picks. I thought that was a better system personally, but
Can we just go down a little bit, please, Chris? Thank you. Derek Turner says it won't work if so many of the top lads ride in both leagues. I guess he's talking about promotion, relegation. I mean, that is a fair
that is
point.
the problem, isn't it?
That is a fair point, and it needs to be sorted. We need more riders.
Yeah,
We need
Tom Brennan
simple.
won heat number 1 for Glasgow. We're now going to wait 5 minutes while he changes into his Kevlar so he can ride for Peterborough in heat number 2.
Yeah.
That's what we're...
You could see it.
You could see it,
You
yeah.
could see it.
It's
Dave Tyne says, if Edinburgh don't get a track, how can it be 8+8+ teams? I haven't worked that out, so is he right?
Well, there's 10 at the moment in the championship, isn't there?
So we'd lose Edinburgh and we'd
Leicester have
lose
obviously gone, so that's
Leicester.
8.
Isn't anybody else going, is there?
Glasgow.
Oh, Glasgow.
Glasgow, if I think if they're convinced, I get the impression that they're trying to convince Glasgow to go up, although whether they...
That's a call for them, isn't it? Because there's not local derbies at all.
No, that's their problem, isn't it? So
Okay. Ty, apparently, I presume that's Ty, or it's somebody new called Tia, is supposed to have signed for Bellevue already, says Barry Young.
not that I know of.
That's the trouble this time of year. You hear rumour after
Yeah.
rumour.
Yeah, silly
I
season.
could tell you what Birmingham's team is en rumours.
Yeah.
You know,
what is it?
it's too high for the bloody whatever. Okay, sorry, I missed that bit. Bewley 9.1, Lambert 7.6 equals 16.7, Frick 8.6, Zago 7.4, 16. Not a lot of difference for next season if it happens.
Well, I certainly don't see Zagar being back at Bellevue next year. Would be surprised. Not even. I mean, even allowing for the injury, I'm not going to be back either. He's looking to try and focus more on the G's than anything else. But
So Simon says riders could ride for both teams. You never know. I think what would happen if they did that is that the rider would ride for
One
the
team.
team that first signed him,
yeah,
and then the other team would have to have a facility. But what I could see happening is rider replacement for the same rider on both teams. I could see that happening.
the really ridiculous one was the Knockout Cup in 1989 when Jimmy Nielsen guested for Wolves in. I think he was guested for Cradley in the first leg and Wolves in the second leg. So you got a winner's medal and a loser's medal in the same final.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Only in Speedway. I got it out.
Is that true?
That is true, yeah. You know,
Tell me why that surprises you.
well, that's 1989, so 33 years ago. So it's not just in recent years when Speedway's done silly things.
Spuddy has heard grumblings of Brady Kurtz to Leicester too. Don't they want him then if they're grumbling? Okay. Only seeing clips from Wolves, the home riders seemed to struggle. Masters on the outside. Kemp also spun round. Track seemed a bit poor. Perhaps Matt can tell us.
It wasn't great, I don't think, the track last night. I don't want to use that as an excuse because Sheffield on the day were just too solid.
Yeah.
And they deserved
the
the
same
win.
track,
It was a
wasn't
very
it?
good, solid performance from Sheffield, and it's better. Sometimes you just got to hold your hands and say that the best team's won. And
I want to address this actually, and we should address it. The fact that Swindon
have gone.
have gone. Rich Thomas says Swindon have closed permanently. Apparently a consortium including Terry Russell and Gaming International looking for new site. BS from all concerned. Well, I don't think it's BS, and I certainly hope it's not BS, but I do think that some of the criticism that has been levelled at Lee Kilby and the way in which it has been levelled.
I saw Lee's post on social media.
He also mentioned it on the BSN as well when he was commenting. And he's obviously very, very upset about it. We know nobody works harder for that club than he does.
If you cut Lee Kilby in half, it's he's red and white through and through, isn't he? He's because obviously his father.
I think if he cut his big toe, it's red and yellow. But, yeah. So yeah,
it was flat after he did his walk, wasn't he, from Birmingham to Sheffield?
I understand people are disappointed. Of course, they're disappointed.
Yeah.
Absolutely disappointed.
It's a massive blow to lose.
We lost it twice. Yeah. I've lost my club twice.
Yeah.
And it's really, really upsetting. There's no getting away from it. It's like somebody's taken a piece of your heart out of you, literally. So I understand people getting upset, but to aim that at Lee Kilby, that's just ridiculous.
I think he was quite upset about it as well, wasn't he?
He was. Duncan Pemberton says, Ree Lambert, Polish League and Swedish virtually done and dusted, so 3 extra days for him. My opinion is no one that's not racing in UK 2022 should be allowed to join a team at the business end of season.
Yeah, I can understand that argument.
Would have helped us with Greg Hancock's situation.
Well, to be fair, when you think back to that, they didn't really need to do it, I don't think, did they? I think they were favourites to win that final, even without Hancock.
Do you think so? We'd beaten Poole that year.
I think, in fairness, once Hancock was in the Poole team, I just felt that was overkill. I think it just deflated Birmingham a little bit, and they sort of, especially in the first leg of that final, they sort of,
both
started
legs.
really.
We lost the second leg as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, but the first leg was something like 20 points, wasn't it? And I think that sort of got into Birmingham's head a little bit, with the complaints really about it, and I think it was probably
there was an atmosphere around Birmingham that year as well that wasn't nice.
No, but I don't think we'll go there, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
There's a couple of YouTube comments.
Because you remembered to look this week.
I remember to look, yeah. Martin Guest says, with so many riders doubling up, promotion and relegation would not work unless we make it automatic rather than the playoff type.
Well, that's interesting. That could be a reward for finishing top of the league as opposed to winning the playoffs. That is something to think about.
It's a strange one, isn't it?
Spuddy says, was two-wheeling into the bends last night. I presume he's talking about
Ryan Douglas.
Yeah, I'd do a straight swap with Dougie for Pico, both on similar averages. I also think Steve will be back on a 6.29 and the British rider reduction.
I'm a big fan of Josh Pickering. I think he's a terrific rider to watch. Steve Worrell, I'm not so sure about. I think Steve Worrell will be back, but is he going to have as good a season this year as? He's had a brilliant season this year. I've voted him for him as Wolves' Rider of the Year. I think he's had a terrific season. He had a bad year at Belvoir last year, and he's ridden this season, with one of the best riders with one of the top 3 riders in the league in the difficult number 2 position, and he's done really, really well. It's a gamble. Is he going to do as well next season? Because I think with a team, this is why I think Wolves will probably look to be making a couple of changes. I always feel that in a team you need to have at least 2 riders that you can look at the start of the season and think they're capable of putting points on their average. Not maintaining your average probably isn't enough.
Would you look at Justin Sedgman?
Not sure.
Given his performance yesterday, because presumably he'd come in as a reserve.
He would do, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Susan Jordan said, would love to see James Pearson, Justin Sedgman. No. I'm guessing there's more to that, but I don't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Perhaps you'd like to explain that one a little bit for us, because we're a bit nonplussed with that. The likes of Hancock at Poole, Woofington at Wolves were underhand tactics with one purpose, to win playoffs, but both were within the rules. Ace's case is genuine, losing their number one through injury, like-for-like replacement within Frick's average. I think we'll definitely agree with the last bit.
Paul might argue that they bought Hancock in to replace Chris Holder, who's out for the season.
Can I just leave that one up for a bit? I mean, underhand with one purpose, to win the playoffs. Well, that is the only purpose
for any Speedway club.
For any Speedway club. I mean, you can't. It's if you think that they've broken the rules.
Yeah,
and
to be fair, when we brought Ty Woofington in, it was a very un-Wolves thing to do, because it was Eunice Kilmacorpy had a good season, although his form had faded, and I think at the time he'd had a knock as well. So the club made the decision to replace him, which was, I think, as CVS has said himself, it's not in his nature to be as ruthless.
I imagine they've realised that Ty was available, and why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Particularly at Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I say, Ty had obviously got a link with Wolves before. He'd ridden for the club for 4 or 5 seasons. So
I'm going to start a rumour that Ty Woffington's already signed for Birmingham.
I don't think it's his favourite track, to be fair.
It isn't. No, he's said that because of that. He had a really bad accident there. They will. Every club, your club, my club, any club, will look at the rules and say, what can we do under these rules? Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it then. Every club worth their salt will do that.
Well, we didn't do it in 2017 when we lost Lingard and Torcell, did we? And we ended up losing the league title that season by a point in the final. So
we should have done, maybe.
Yeah.
But, do we think the Championship Jubilee League final will be completed? Seem to be running out of dates. Do we know this should have been done and dusted? It's supposed to be a summer thing. Same with
the League Cup final in the top flight. I mean, the last qualifying matches in that were run in April. We're now in October and we still haven't had the final.
Yeah. The weather's been pretty good, hasn't it? It's been one of the best summers.
It should be done and dusted. I mean, we might be in a situation. I will make our minds up next week. That next week will be our last programme, and there'll still be matches to run. I think if there's still matches to run, we'll probably do another one. But
well, of course, we've got the 2 finals coming up, haven't we? Championship final and Premiership final.
Okay. Sir Jordan says Lee Kilby works hard for all clubs. Thank you, Lee Kilby. You're a star. And Rich Thomas says Lee Kilby put 2 videos on Facebook saying the new stadium was definitely going to happen. He's got to expect flack. Freedom of speech, which has sadly gone from life.
Not personal, though. There's a lot of it has been personal.
And people that quote freedom of speech very often quote it in one direction. They're allowed to have their freedom of speech, but Lee Kilby's not allowed to have his freedom of speech and say he's been upset by it.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Alan Ross has been very, very quiet on the whole thing, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
About it.
Well, right from the start.
Yeah.
He's got to expect flack. I'm sure he does expect flack, but he doesn't expect personal and criticism of his family as well. No, that's not acceptable in my book. If you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, then you shouldn't say it.
Well, I've always said if you post something on social media, when you've written it out, read it first, and you think, is that sort of thing I should be putting on?
And then read it again.
Yeah. Sometimes you think, well, people have looked at it and thought, that's all right.
Particularly if you're upset.
Yeah.
Which I understand people will be upset and will. It's hard, and I feel so gutted for the Swindon fans in the same way as I felt gutted. I mean, it was a great track, and they just had redone it as well, and it was even better. Their toilets had to be seen to be believed, but that's
Yes, certainly smelt to be believed.
but that's another thing. Susan Jordan wants Pico at Brum, and Craig Smith says, I can't understand why the stadium owners at Swindon paid all that money to move the track over and then shut it completely. It makes no sense to me. No. Well, we may never know the ins and outs of that, but I feel for the Swindon fans, and I hope desperately that they can find somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's their biggest sport in Swindon is Speedway, isn't it?
It's a big club. Big club. It's arguably the dominant club pre-COVID in the top flight, wasn't it? So.
And we've actually caught up.
Well,
it only took 3/4 of an hour.
Well,
so there we
you go. Thank you for that, everybody. I suppose.
Keep them coming as well, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has finished 50-40 at Plymouth, by the way.
50-40. Okay, so Plymouth.
The Centurions.
So Plymouth don't take the wooden spoon then.
Yep.
Armadale, strongest team in the league, holding everybody
Lee
else.
Coplin, 15-point maximum for Armadale. But Danny Phillips, he scored 11. Elliot Kelly 5. Tom Woolley 7. Didn't pick up any points for RR, for Josh Embleton, Kai Ward 2, James Laker 0. So good performance by their top two, but not really a lot of support after that for Armadale.
No. So talking about next week, if next week is our last, or let's say when we come to our last, it would be a nice little game for everybody to tell us what they want for their team next year, who they want to keep and who they want to replace them.
Yeah, your wish list.
Yeah.
List.
I do realise that puts me in a very bad position, because I'm going to have to. Yeah, but hey ho. Lawrence might not be happy with me.
Yeah.
He's probably driving around here as we speak. So.
Yeah.
Shall we quickly run through? I mean, we can get back to the comments then if we run through the tables and fixtures. And I'll put that up here. You actually moved up this.
Well, it was going to happen. Where have I moved up to?
16th.
Okay. Give me another 6 weeks, and I'll still be in 16th.
And I'm up to 8th.
I'm not. Bad week, and I had a bad week. I mean, everybody's got
a great week, have they? Really?
Yeah, everybody. It's almost identical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apart from the big winner was Chris. Yeah.
Me.
You had the best.
You had the Sheffield win last night, didn't you?
Yeah. That's how good I am. It's still pretty. It's still neck and neck. I think 2 points in it at the top there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt's going to tell us what's going to happen if it does end all square. Aren't you, Matt?
I am going to tell you.
Go on then. You're not going to say yes?
What now?
He hasn't made it up yet.
I thought we made it up earlier.
Yeah. Well, what I've done, I've kept a record of who has got the most correct scores.
Yeah.
Bang on.
Right.
That's a person is.
So it's count back essentially.
Yeah, one person is relatively clear at the moment. I won't say who it is, but that's how I'm looking at doing it at the moment.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Okay, so I don't suppose there's that many fixtures this week then, is there?
We have got 7 at the moment.
I think next season we should do playoff spots as well, just to make it interesting.
Let's not make it too complicated.
Getting carried away now.
Okay, should we go through them then?
Let's go for the fixtures.
Duncan Pemberton says, as long as I finish above the Tavern boys, I'll be happy.
No, there's a challenge. There's a challenge. Okay,
Well,
then. One of us got to do it.
It's not going to be me, I can tell you that straight away.
No, definitely won't be you.
I believe it's your start this week, Matt.
Oxford against Leicester in the NDL playoff.
That's been, we should say,
Oxford's been streamed,
been a successful start, hasn't it, for Oxford?
Yeah.
Oxford
it's
against
been
Leicester.
streamed, I think, tomorrow as well, isn't it? Or they are planning to stream an NDL match. I've seen, I'm sure. Whether it's that one, I'm not sure.
This is an NDL, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've gone for Leicester by 10.
Okay. Who have finished top.
Yeah.
We should say congratulations. It's up to you.
Up to me. What we Oxford versus Leicester. Okay.
That's
I'll
in the
go.
NDL, by the way.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Okay, so it could go anywhere, couldn't he?
Not that you know the difference.
Oxford, hopefully.
I'll go Oxford by 10.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Shall I go for a draw?
Go for what you want, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to say Leicester by 2.
Okay, next up, Sheffield against Wolves at Alderton, Thursday night.
Sheffield versus Wolves. Ooh, careful.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty good at of doing this one. So I'll go for Sheffield by 8.
So when we first came to this last week, I said it was going to be a draw both sides.
Yeah.
So obviously that's gone. So I'm actually going to say that that Wolves are going to win by 4. Then it's squeaky bottom time.
Well, not for you, innit?
No.
That leaves me, doesn't it?
Yep.
Go on. I'll go for it. Wolves by 6.
Your heart would not let you go any other way, would it? Wow.
My head's screaming at it, saying, what earth are you doing, man? But we're not out of it.
Yeah.
Certainly not out of it. 4 points. It's not unsurmountable. Nowhere near.
Right.
Armadale against Leicester is the next one.
Armadale versus Leicester. I've done much better of late, haven't they, Armadale?
Yeah. Tough match, though, against Leicester.
Leicester by 10.
Me next, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leicester by 14, I've gone.
I'll go Leicester by 12.
Okay, next up, the Championship Knockout Cup final first leg, Redcar against Poole.
Up to you, Matt.
Poole by 12.
I'll go Poole by 8.
Poole by 10.
I was going to say you don't like Redcar. I know that anyway, so we won't go there.
No.
Okay, next up is the second leg of the NDL playoff
Water under
semi-final.
the track.
Leicester against Oxford.
Leicester against Oxford. Din, din, din. It's up to you, Chris.
I'll go Leicester by 8.
Leicester by 18.
Yeah, I've gone Leicester by 18. Berwick against Millsall is the next one.
Playoff.
Semi-final, first leg.
That's
Yeah, I'm going to say Berwick by 2.
I've gone by 10.
Chris?
I'll go Berwick by 12.
Rich Thomas has gone Leicester by 24, by the way.
Last one in the Championship, Plymouth against Glasgow.
Could be an interesting. That's going to be...
Yeah, Glasgow maybe deflated their 2 hammerings against...
God, that was...
Poole,
that was well, yeah. It's up to you anyway, Matt.
Draw.
Whoa.
The draw is almost like sitting on the fence, I think.
You'll go.
I'll go Glasgow by 6.
So I look at these and I work out which one I'm going to go for a draw, and it was going to be that one.
Now you're going to change your mind, aren't you?
I'm going to say Glasgow by 2.
Okay.
And that's it.
And there we go. Fantastic. It's going to be interesting next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be so interesting.
So Bellevue in the box seat, I think, for the top flight title, regardless of whether it's Wolves or Sheffield. Would you say?
You would think so, but it's a funny old game.
It's a funny old game. Some questions up the top here?
Have we got some questions?
No, I think...
I can answer that one. Why no tactical subs in playoffs? Because it's over 2 legs.
Yeah.
And that just makes uneven amount of points in each leg, which is just plain wrong.
Yeah, and complicated,
Mm-hmm.
I think, as well.
So, yeah, that's why.
But I would say, I mean, Bellevue box seat, I think, it's 29 years since they last won a title.
I mean, Sheffield haven't done particularly well around Bellevue, have they?
Well, I mean, the last time Sheffield went there, I think it was 57-33.
Yeah.
They absolutely got... I mean, Wolves are probably the one team that haven't done too badly at Bellevue this season.
Yeah.
Won there in the first match.
Strange because the 2 tracks are so different.
Yeah, but we've got riders who ride Bellevue well.
Yeah.
And I think the 2 league matches have been 12-point wins for Bellevue. So it's not, it's a defeat, but it's not a pummeling like some other teams have taken. For a playoff final, it would probably be very different when you've got 7 Bellevue riders really pumped up for it. That's why they bought Lamberton. You know, I mean, they've waited a long time to win a league championship. I think what's been good for Bellevue as well, when you look at their team, is if you look at the bottom end, you know, you've got Bloodhorn and Brennan. I mean, they started on off averages of 4 for Bloodhorn and Brennan 377. I mean, Bloodhorn's finished on 636, Brennan's finished on 670. So they've both put 2-3 points on their averages. You know, you haven't even touched on their top end strength yet. So
yeah. I mean, they're a different team from the team that started the season.
Yeah.
And
we're the only team that have kept the 1-7 right from the start of the season. So, but I just wonder. No, I think the one thing that Wolves.
Who would you have not if you was going to have replaced somebody through the season?
Drew Kemp's had a poor season. He's disappointed me this season. Really, I think that's where Wolves' Achilles heel has been at reserve. Been too many meetings where the reserves have been carried. I mean, Leon Flint, through no fault of his own, has ended up as the number 1 reserve. You know, there's been a lot of pressure on him to deliver in meetings because Kemp hasn't.
Okay, so Rich Thomas says still thinks you should do one show a month during winter to discuss news, signings, etc. And Chris Brown, whoever he is, has said you can ask my wife if you like.
Sure, yeah, she'll be really happy with that.
I don't think. I mean, we will do shows over the winter.
We'll certainly do one after the
AGM. Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, that's going to happen. But to say no, I don't want to do something that's regular. We need time to recharge our batteries and think about how we're going to do this differently next year, and then come and do it exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's the way it goes. It's a bit BSPA, but different.
Wolves rate Leon extremely highly. It's clear to see. He'll be back. Heard the RS is going in Premier next season.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question about
RS.
Rising Star.
I'm
going to ask you a question about Leon Flint.
Okay. In a heartbeat.
Would he might be back at Birmingham?
I'd have him in a heartbeat.
Not whether you would have him back. Do you think it's possibilities that he might go back?
He seemed to be showing the love at when he won the under-21, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a Berwick boy through and through, though, isn't he? I mean, it's his home club, his home team. It really.
Well, Scott Nichols was an Ipswich man, was an Ipswich boy through and through. But he felt when he was on our show. I mean, he said he felt that he needed to move to get out of that comfort zone. Really, it would be advantageous for him, obviously. You know, if he's back at Wolves next year, which I'm fairly certain he will be. For Birmingham, especially if he's there, if there's a Wolves rider on for Birmingham, then might convince a few Wolves fans to make the trip over to Perry Bar on Wednesdays, which would be good for Birmingham's coffers, I think. So,
I would love to have. He's just a great kid, and he's great for the team. He's great.
He's great with the fans as well. Really good with the fans. I've got a lot of time for Leon. You know, he's a nice lad.
Rich Thomas replies with, I'm single, I'm good with other people's wives. Now, I'll just tell you, can I just tell you this, Rich? I would end up single as well.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one. I'll put it out there for you. I'll get your answer and then I'll give you my answer. Duncan Pemberton says, how does Matt fancy compiling a quiz live for a winter show? And then you have to type your answers.
It was really quick off the mark there, Matt. I'm guessing your answer is going to be
right.
Probably ends with off.
I'm going to turn this around because I've just had a really interesting idea.
No, I don't like your interest.
For one of the shows, perhaps if we do something over the winter, instead of us asking questions, those guys out there can ask us questions. One by one, so it'll be my question, then it'll be Chris's, then it'll be yours, and we'll see who wins.
Speedway.
So you guys would ask the questions. What do you think about those apples?
Well, when I used to do hospital radio, we did a quiz every Christmas.
Yeah.
So something possibly.
We could do a Christmas quiz, I suppose.
Yeah.
I've got a few prizes I can give away and so forth.
So can you go back down just a bit? Craig Smith says, I hope the Rising Star scheme isn't scrapped in Premiership unless they bring it back, thank you, in the Championship and enforce that teams use a Rising Star. There has to be a progression from MDL up to the Championship, then Premiership. It can't stop. Brennan and Flint is proof Rising Star can work, and they probably wouldn't have had the opportunity had it not been brought in. I think all fair comments. I would love to see Rising Star.
Yeah, I would.
It would...
There seems a reluctance to do it in the second tier, though. Same with the when you had before. What can't remember what it was now. You had years ago the picks.
Oh yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited about next season because, of course, next year the World Cup's coming back. But you think we could have Bewley, Lambert, Woofington, Brennan, possibly Leon Flint. I mean, that's going to be that's a decent lineup. It's a much better lineup than we've had in the last few World Cups. So
Absolutely.
Maybe it'll get more than one mention as well on TV.
No, it won't.
That's true.
Yeah, it was the draft. We had a draft.
The draft system, I couldn't remember what it was.
That did build a lot of interest, and a lot of people watched that live on I think it was on Twitter, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's quite a few riders I think that did benefit from it as well. So.
Paul Stark being one of them.
Good rider, Paul Stark as well. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would like to see it in the Championship as well, giving some NDL riders a chance. Possibly not both, but maybe just the one berth in the, because you don't want people that are out of the depth, do we? But I'd like to see that. That would be good.
Well, apparently, Rich Thomas was on. He was on Bullseye.
Wow, that's going back a bit, isn't it? Yeah. Did you win the speedboat, Rich? or were you told this is what you could have won? So
This is what. Whatever it was.
That was a great impression. Absolutely fantastic.
No, it really wasn't,
No,
and I'm proud that it wasn't.
It was absolutely awful.
Well, there you go, Rich. You can chuck some questions at us when we sort that
I thought you were
out.
going to say chuck some darts at us then.
Well, there is. Oh, hello. We have come to the. Well, that happened quick.
Yeah.
Right, well, good luck to all of you guys out there in playoff positions, particularly Sheffield. And we will see you for what is possibly our last meeting next week. But I think it might be one more. We'll see. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay.